Hello, welcome back to the L1 show. Today's October 18th, and we're doing government and security news.
There's kind of a lot of government news because they're meddling with things.
The government.
No, there's the opposite. They're doing nothing for the next month.
Oh yeah, because they're getting ready they have to gear up for the holiday.
Yeah, they want the election. They want no controversy for the next 30 days.
But usually too, because like going into Thanksgiving and Christmas, they just stop working for like a month and a half.
Well, you got to get your vacation home prepped. I mean, come on. These are hardworking people. They deserve a break. But the FCC is doing some stuff. Now, this is nothing new per se. It's sort of a continuation of the old, but they have added some names, angering some people.
The FCC is poised to ban all U.S. sales of new Huawei and ZTE equipment. They were previously on the naughty list. Most people knew, hey, don't buy this equipment. But they're still selling telecommunications equipment super cheap. Some people are still buying. The FCC is poised to ban all sales, not just sales to, recommend, not just strongly recommending against it, I guess. And
I thought it was like only government entities weren't allowed to use their stuff. Maybe I had that mixed up.
no, yeah, weren't allowed. That's right. But this is everything. This is all even commercial sales. Because there's still like, think your local, your regional ISP or your regional cell phone carrier, like the super small one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we can get all this equipment super cheap. It turns out probably shouldn't be using that.
Hikvision has been added. They are real salty about that. And they're like, we've never been accused of this ever before. How is this?
And yet I've looked into their bootloader and oh boy, it's messed up.
Now, there is a sunset. So if you have the stuff now, you don't have to throw it away. But it will be any new products will be affected by this.
I know somebody that's trying to get federal money for the equipment replacement, and they've okayed it, but they haven't actually written a check, which is probably bad.
And we have all these interesting data laws coming out of the EU. They sound great, and we would love to have them over here in some cases. But the thing about it is, we do have EU data over here, because our companies operate in the EU, and the EU countries are like, hey, wait a minute. How can this be safe if we're sending it over there to the land of spying?
Biden has signed an executive order with a new framework to protect data transfers between the U.S. and the EU. So this is designed entirely to assuage fears from the European Union that bad things are happening over here. This doesn't seem to actually do anything to prevent bad things from happening once the data gets over here. Was that your read of it?
Well, we already had this in 2020, but the problem is the EU went further with some of their protection laws when someone went back and looked and they were like, oh yeah, that makes that impossible to be valid because it's going to be spied on. So they had to, I don't think they changed a whole lot. They changed just enough to conform to what they have to. So.
How will this make my life harder?
I was just gonna recommend that you picture the scene from the Lord of the Rings where the wizard's whispering into the ear of the king. It's like that, except with data retention laws. Somebody from Google is whispering into Biden's ear like, we need this so that European data doesn't have to.
They're not welcome, my lord.
Did you see the revelation about Biden whispering in the ear of the Saudis?
Yeah, that was kind of. I was trying to set myself up for something for that, but I messed it up.
It was after November. After November. Now this chained themainwire.com. Wait, what's themainwire.com? But the website is chained. That's weird. This is a paywall alternative. They went with the clickbait picture. Unfortunately, she's not involved.
Federal officials traded stocks affected by agency decisions, according to the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, this is not really anything to do with Pelosi, but the article originated from looking at the behavior of Congress, but then they said, what about just the local plebs? And so if you're a small government office that has to do with something like the oversight of a particular company, they looked at those employees, like have those employees traded stocks? What did they trade? And it turns out, yeah, at all levels of government, employees own stock, and they'll trade stock in companies that their office that they work in makes decisions about that can affect the stock price of those companies.
They even correlated, they said in some cases it was heavy trading right after they got their eyes on it. So
That seems unethical.
And yet it's happening at all levels of government. USA.
Is it possible that the other employees see it happening at the top and think, well, I can do that too?
Usually that's not how that works. It's totally laws for me, not for thee. But I guess it's laws not for anybody.
This really is a democracy.
I guess if we're all cheating. But I don't get to cheat. I need some of that data. Some of that sweet, sweet data.
Would they get in trouble if they share data with us when they're not supposed to?
Yeah, for sure. Well, actually, what would happen is we'd get stung by the FBI and we'd go to the prison for the rest of our lives. Yeah. They might give us a plea deal if we agree not to talk about it. And this is a fight that's been going on for a long time, mostly in California, but, it could upend things all over the place if this happens.
Labor Department proposal could upend rules for gig workers. So the headline is more, I would rewrite the headline as Labor Department proposal could finally close loopholes companies have been exploiting to pay gig workers less than minimum wage.
I'm fine if they pay them whatever they want, and I'm fine if they're contractors, but you cannot tell them how to behave if that's the case. Contractor, you give me a task, either I complete it or I don't, and whatever I do in the meantime, you don't have any control over. That is not how Uber and Lyft do business at all. So I doubt they'll be happy with any way that plays out. So we're seeing, the conflict that's currently going on over there in Ukraine is definitely teaching us so much about how vulnerable we are. First, we learned about what drones can do. Boy, that's terrifying, huh?
Viasat stopped working on an entire continent pretty much.
Yeah. And we learned that energy infrastructure, those are big targets. So we started looking at our own energy infrastructure, and someone, after vomiting in fear, got on the telephone and said, we need a plan for this.
Utility security is so bad, the U.S. Department of Energy offers rate cuts to improve it. I don't think any utility companies are actually taking this seriously, as some of them are putting up brand new Huawei cameras in their offices.
So they don't have strict guidelines, but what they're saying is if you spend money to fix this and document it, you will get some portion of that money back from the federal government. They don't really tell you what you have to do. They're just saying, make a good faith effort, document it, and show it to us, and we will kick back to you.
The only way this would actually improve is if the U.S. Department of Energy literally pays them to do it. As in, we just spent $250,000 securing our office. And the Department of Energy says, great, we'll pay you that and a $50,000 bonus for doing it correctly. That's what it would take to actually get this done.
They're definitely not doing that.
No.
But
well, they're not going to do the other thing either, because a portion, it's like, how about we spend no money and just wait for disaster?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to be convinced that you have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not.
They're so far behind. All these little local and regional offices.
Who needs electricity or clean water? Not me.
But also, hey guys, let's do a big overhaul of security and replace a bunch of stuff at a time when we can't get any parts and hyperinflation is destroying the world. That's a good time to do that. Maybe you should have thought about this a year or two ago.
The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the next best time is
now.
Does that also count for time to remove a high vision camera? Oh, St. Louis. St. Louis is having a bad time. And, they're upset. They're blaming the gun. But I think they have to sort of like look in the mirror and say, what is it about St. Louis that is particularly bad about this?
St. Louis preparing to sue Hyundai and Kia over rampant car thefts in the city. This makes sense. The security issues with these cars are appalling. And if it were, I don't know, a seatbelt buckle malfunction, which is probably less serious, it would have been met with a more serious response from these companies. These companies have had an appalling response to this security issue. I think in Hyundai's case, they used an example encryption key from the documentation of how to do something.
No, this is different. This is the Kia Boys thing, where there's no immobilizer. They use that USB cable not to copy the code. That's just the perfect shape to turn the little tab that's in there.
So it's just, it is badly physically designed as well as badly electrically designed.
Before 2021, they simply were like, we don't need that part in these cars. Let's lower the price by, $100. Now, the stats in here were staggering. I think when you only measure Kias and Hyundais, the theft rate went up like 3,500%.
Who's the engineer who was in the meeting when they first talked about removing that part? And he was like, guys, I think you'll see a lot more thefts if you do that. And they're like, nah, no one's ever going to catch that.
Yeah, they probably weren't even looped in. It's like, you deleted that part? Why did you change that without
That's
letting us know?
that's a vital security thing.
See, the problem with you making those kinds of changes is that you're a moron and you don't realize that you're a moron. So when you make those kind of changes, they come back to haunt us years later.
Of course, this never would have happened without the Kia boys TikTok trend.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the perfect storm of terrible job securing the cars, which I'm sure they never did well, and someone just really like paint by numbers explaining to you how to deploy it. Plus, I'm suspecting, I don't know any hard numbers here, but I'm suspecting that they're not really doing anything when they catch these people because most of them are young. So
TikTok told me to do it.
yeah. Let me get your fingerprint and get you right back out there stealing more Hyundais. The FBI is stepping in to warn about something that we've been talking about here since what, 2019, 2018?
Yeah.
Basically, everything that comes from those Amazon sellers is fake. Cables, batteries, whatever.
Cables.
The FBI says, beware of fake batteries. Here's what to watch out for. Yeah, those spicy pillows. We've even gotten fake Amazon Basics batteries that started leaking within probably a month.
Are you talking about non-lithium?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
alkaline.
Or you could, like those the little ones you put in your fobs?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll sell them when they're already dead.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing that a company that large can be that dysfunctional.
But it's not just them. And the FBI, they're kind of saying like, well, we know that everybody's poor right now. So be careful about trying to save money on batteries. Because that battery that's 75% off, guess what? It's not real. And it could burn your house down. You love to see bad things happen to the bored apes, right? God, I hate the bored apes. And it looks like maybe all that money. Now, a lot of people got burned on the bored apes, but the bored ape creators, they cleaned up.
Oh yeah.
They built an empire off of these. So this is bad news for them.
The SEC is investigating Bored Ape creator Yuga Labs over securities violations. Ape NFTs and ApeCoin.
So they're saying, yeah, these are securities. You didn't declare them as such. You're not dealing with them as such, and we're coming for you. Bad time to go after them, though, now that those apes are worth nothing.
How long until just someone's labor is declared a security, or an artist's work is declared a security?
You think maybe somebody at the Fed is hoping that they get the same kind of situation here that they did with Silk Road?
Yeah.
It's like, we'll bust them now, and then crypto will rebound, and NFTs will come back around, and we'll make $1 billion.
We've got the ultimate collection. But I mean, really, where do you draw the line? If you say you have an artist that's doing, 100 paintings in 100 days or whatever, because that's a thing. We've seen that before. They're not very good paintings, but are the Bored Apes that much better? Did the artist create a bunch of securities by creating 100 paintings?
Plus, how long will it now take an AI to create 10 million NFT entries that are all unique and
That was his art project.
no artist required? This is a terrible idea. My God, it's just so bad. And if you're wondering, like, why would they push for this? Well, for one reason, this company wants to, make this a new business model. But there is a little hidden Easter egg that tells us the true motivation here at the end.
Digital license plates become legal for all cars in California. You could have safety notices and alerts on your license plate, and also go Bears.
But they did
Wow.
the big one, the big feature that they did throw in here, but just mentioned in a couple of lines. You can have as an extra feature if you get the subscription, which I think the subscription is required. You can get trip tracking and analysis. So in other words, these are tracking devices.
Oh.
All of them are. If you don't subscribe to it, someone else will track it for you, but they'll never tell you about it.
They're $1,000. Why would you do this?
You can buy, they also have a hardwire kit, but that's just for commercial fleets right now, and a battery kit. The battery, I think they say, will last 50,000 miles or a number of years, which is impressive considering it's going to be a tracker.
E-paper. Woo. I can't wait for the license plate to change depending on what driver is in the vehicle. Like, imagine your RFID enabled driver's license, and it's like, boop, and then the license on the back of the car changes to be you.
This person's a moron. Give plenty of space.
There is a little, you know how like the bottom of the license plate sometimes people put license plate holders and they have like a little saying or whatever. There's a digital version of that on there. So you actually could personalize it. But that's just e-ink. That'd be pretty easy to fake, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you could have a Raspberry Pi behind that thing and you can make your license plate whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, bonus points if we can find the QR code that shuts down all the AI. It's just.
I wonder if, because the cops have the plate readers.
Yeah.
Do you think the plate readers are like, does this have some technology to tell the plate reader, hey, this is not a real plate? This is just a do-it-yourselfer?
No, I bet the plate reader. I bet if you carefully chose numbers, it would fool the plate reader.
I wouldn't carefully choose numbers. I'd find another car that looks exactly like mine,
Yeah,
and I'd put that on it.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You have your own plate reader that's scanning for cars like yours in the area.
All the plates are fake. Oh, big win for Apple. This is disgusting. I was so angry about this.
Apple wins a 2/3 cut in a French antitrust fine to 372 million euros, according to sources. What's your takeaway from this? That they plan to appeal this once again?
Oh my God. Yeah. He was like, this is now that's 372. I'm sorry. Down from 1.1 billion.
I thought I had misread it and that this was the result of the appeal. But in fact, no, Apple plans to appeal this because they still think it's unfair.
They threw away one of the charges, which cut all that down. But Apple was like, yeah, we agree with that, but we still disagree with the other one. And we will continue to line pockets till it is gone.
Maybe the French need to riot again.
Don't you think the whole world needs to riot right now?
If only that would accomplish something.
And the EU, of course, while we are doing nothing about these monsters that keep just building and building their empires, the EU a little bit more prickly about it because they don't get the tax income.
EU wants to know if Microsoft will block rivals after Activision deal. This is a Reuters article and it's a pretty good write-up, but I've seen some quotes from the people in the EU that are worried about this, and it's clear that they don't have a good understanding of the situation because they think that Microsoft is going to block rivals in strange ways, but really I think this is to do with the whole console exclusivity thing.
Yeah, and the Game Pass.
Yeah.
Game Pass exclusivity is becoming a thing. I think it's hilarious that several of the EU people, like the high-ranking people, had to talk about Call of Duty.
I don't think they understand Game Pass or how it works. I don't think they have a surface level understanding based on some of the quotes. It sounds like they understand it like as if, shoe trading in the 1960s. And
They know Call of Duty is a big thing.
Yeah.
And they're worried that Microsoft will somehow control that. And over in Germany, this is nice. It's nice when you have someone who's doing a job and they're terrible at it and they fail spectacularly and you say, yeah, you have to go. I don't care if you're part of the government. We're firing you.
Germany's cybersecurity chief faces dismissal, reports say. He's they're digging into him and they keep finding things that are strange and links to other governments or something, so he's got to go.
God, can you imagine if we found that one of our leaders had links to Ukraine and Russia?
Someone that controlled the Senate had a lot of investment from foreign companies from a particular country.
We would definitely do something about that. And yeah, they are now with the Nord Stream offline and all the power. You were getting down into the fall and they're crunching the numbers and they're giving us some bad news over there across the pond.
Households could face 3-hour blackouts as businesses are asked to help tackle the electricity shortage.
This is in the UK.
Yeah. This is cutting off businesses so that homes continue to have heating.
They did that in China during the heat wave. And there were people, it's like, I had $40,000 worth of stuff in my restaurant freezers and they just turned it off for a week.
I mean, the other thing is people dying of heat stroke in their homes. It's not really kind of a lose-lose.
For sure. Or, energy infrastructure that
Yeah, we should have invested in for the last 50 years. Yeah.
robust. Don't tofu drag the energy infrastructure. And the Dutch are, they're usually at the forefront of workers' rights, and they're looking at work from home, and they're saying, now we're going to make some changes.
Subjecting workers to webcam monitoring violates privacy, a Dutch court rules. So this was a person who worked from home, but their employer insisted on having their webcam on while they were on shift. And they said, no, that's crazy. They were fired for that. And the Dutch court says, no, that was an unjust firing. You got to pay back the employee.
And damages. And you got to pay off their vacation time they didn't use. and back pay for all the time between now and then. It didn't end up being a lot of money, but it was like 75 grand US, I think, which, you know, that's like a year's salary probably for that person or more.
Still worth it just to watch their shitty boss kind of crap their pants, I'm sure.
Bleep that, please.
Sorry.
And over in Iran, they are rising up, Krista. As you've called out for it, and they did it. I don't think they did it because you called out for it.
No, I don't think so.
But it's still going on. And of course, these governments, what do they do when the people rise up?
VPN use skyrockets in Iran as citizens navigate the internet censorship under Tehran's crackdown. Woo!
They have an interesting way of doing it. They don't turn the internet off, but at 4 p.m. every day, they turn off all the social media and any stuff that they feel is dangerous. So it's like during the workday, yeah, use social media to be productive. But after that, just it's gone.
Are my Yahoo web rings intact, though? What about my fan fiction sites?
Freedom fan fiction. Fan fiction about going around with your head uncovered. And Mr. Musk, did we talk about the Musk tweet angering Ukraine? So yeah, he made them very angry by proposing a deal, or not. He wasn't proposing it, I guess. He created a poll and was like, "Hey, here's a solution I think would be good," but it was Russia kept Crimea, right?
Yeah,
that was the big caveat. And the Ukrainian government didn't care for it at all.
It was just very tone deaf.
Reuters has the article, Musk says SpaceX cannot fund Ukraine's vital Starlink internet indefinitely. But he's probably going to get super criticized for this for a lot of reasons. On Twitter, somebody said, hey, does this have anything to do with the fact that the former Ukrainian official from somebody said F off to your poll? And he said, we're just doing what they said. Shrugs. So yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's just butthurt.
He's that petty.
He is such a troll. It harkens back to the submarine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when the guy was like, "This is never going to work," and then he was like, "Let's do an investigation to see if he's a pedophile."
Yeah. It really does reek of that. But the crazy thing here is, it's not as if it's not a sunk cost. Like, it's not actually really costing. He did that cost estimation assuming that each terminal would be paying $4,500 a month for service, not the 20 or 50 that most of them are signed up for.
Yeah, this is just keeps his name in the headlines.
It's a tantrum.
Gets a little petty revenge. I saw somebody reporting, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently they had him on the kill list website for about 50 minutes before somebody was like, no, we better take that off. Yeah. Also, how great that Ukraine has an official kill list website. And going into security, of course, you know, at the beginning of security, we have it every week. It's a stupid move by a developer that has lost your information.
Toyota discloses a data leak after access key exposed on GitHub. So this was an access key that let you access an API, but it turns out that you could use it to query certain things like customer personal information.
No payment data or anything like that. So just contact information and stuff, but still embarrassing. Still unnecessary. And Intel also is having a bad time. Now, they say this is no big deal, but some security researchers say, I beg to differ.
Intel confirms Alder Lake BIOS source code leak. New details emerge. So why this might be a big deal is attackers could maybe theoretically find flaws in this that would otherwise be a little bit more obscure, a little bit more difficult to find. It'll probably be easier. It may lead to platform compromise. Intel has said, for their part, I think Intel's handling it as well as they can. They've said, well, since it's out there, if you're a security researcher and you find something, please participate in our bug bounty program, which is probably the best kind of a response they could have to this.
Yeah. I mean, what else are you going to do about it? Other than, security. Ransomwares are still going after hospitals, and it is a terrible, terrible thing.
CHI Memorial in Tennessee, they had delayed patient care. And
it's a lot of hospitals.
Not just them, but that one's pretty close. St. Luke's Hospital in Texas and Virginia. And yeah, is it weird that this many hospitals all across the U.S. are connected internally such that someone could deploy ransomware on such a large scale?
Because they're part of a health group, which is basically this big conglomerate that owns a bunch of hospitals, which in my mind makes me question why are we going after Activision and Microsoft and not this? Isn't this way more important? And isn't this a way more of a monopoly?
Doesn't this effectively become collusion that prevents access to good healthcare?
Kind of feels like it.
What if our hospital was leaked and now the Russians know that you have alpha gal?
They'll target you.
They're like, he has a tick-borne illness.
And of course, reaching out. Sometimes you get bad software. You got to reach out to that help desk. Be careful.
2K warns users their info has been stolen following a breach of its help desk. Wasn't the game stuff, it was the support part of it. Email addresses, console IDs, gamer tags, correspondence that you've had with support. So the more you've contacted support, the more your stuff was leaked.
Well, I think it's just one account. I guess each ticket would be in there. They could see how dumb you are.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, 50 tickets for forgot password. That's a good target. Let's fish them.
Maybe that's worse than the healthcare one if you think about it.
That would be a pretty good fish too. You call them and say, "Hey, you're gonna need to get an Xbox gift card, and I'm from Activision." It's like, "You're not from Activision." It's like, "Oh, I got all these details."
Yeah, remember when I helped you reset your password 2 months ago? Come on, bro. This one is not as crazy as the headline says, and there are other problems, but it is kind of disturbing that when it comes to your phone, there is no really true way to protect yourself.
Android leaks some traffic even when Always-on VPN is enabled.
Look at this stock photo.
It's
leaking the data.
Why is this stream of data in a larger font than this stream of data?
I think it's maybe supposed to indicate that it's wrapping around. Perhaps. Not well, but...
No attribution for that image either. Must be stock.
I prefer my visual representation of information on a wire to look more like a bowl of alphabet cereal.
Or the Matrix thing. Kind of the same idea. Yeah, so this has to do with, they had to make exceptions for the captures, the portal captures for like hotels and stuff. That will always leak you. So be careful about that. They said, like, why don't you just give me a setting that says I don't have to worry about that. I'm only going to be at home. Doesn't exist, but maybe it will. And Roblox. Oh boy, is Roblox popular. And when you have something that popular, especially with young people who are juicy targets for the worst of us, you got to worry a lot.
Roblox says policing virtual world is like shutting down speakeasies.
I feel like they picked maybe the worst guy to get an interview from Roblox. I was like, ooh, this is not a great defense.
Are you basing that on what he said?
Yeah, the way he phrased it. I don't necessarily fully disagree with him, but the way he phrased it, I was like,
So you can...
They need a PR person.
What he means is you can create rooms, private rooms in Roblox. And apparently some people created a private room and brought in a young girl.
All right.
And then got her to Discord. And on Discord, they coerced her into abusing alcohol and pills, which I guess was just in the house. And then from there, sending nudes. So this wasn't like the metaverse sexual assault, which was where they just got too close to somebody. This was legitimate.
He, well, the way he phrased it, he was like, it's really not that bad. He's like, it's really just a terms of service breach. And I was like, that's maybe not quite accurate. So it sounded like he was downplaying it.
I wonder, like, we don't do a very good job, but there are some attempts to restrict age under 18. Could we restrict age over 18?
Yeah, if we uniquely identified every user of a terminal at all times, which is where all of this ultimately leads.
Yeah. The CIA was like, yeah, we're working on it, buddy.
So wasn't Club Penguin? Wasn't that supposed to be for kids?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think that's what happened. I think a lot of adults got on Club Penguin, but...
Also, Walmart's got that new thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like, if you're over, was it 13? You go to one, and if you're under 13, you go to the other one. So like, it'd be nice if you could enforce that. Well, here's a new kind of attack that you might not think about. When you're thinking about your Wi-Fi security, you're like, well, we'll know if somebody's in the lobby with a laptop. We'll be able to surveil that, right? Don't think so.
How Wi-Fi spy drones have snooped on financial firm. Just drones flying outside their offices. Why not?
I'm imagining like you're working at your desk or whatever, and like, you know, you're just doing whatever, and then you just hear the drone.
It's in the office. It's just over your shoulder.
Does anyone know about this drone? I'd probably fine.
Is that somebody's DoorDash? Let it outside. It's just trying to
You're
get
gonna shoot out like it's a bird.
You got a broom.
Yeah.
So this was 2 drones. One of them went there originally and captured somehow the employee's credentials to get in. Then they loaded down the other drone. It was a big drone, and it had all the equipment to go ahead and make the attack. But apparently they overloaded it because it was so damaged it could never take off.
Ooh.
It was a suicide mission for that drone. So they caught them both.
I hope they caught and released them.
Well, they can't fly anymore. What are you going to do? They have to
Put
spend
it
their
down.
life in captivity.
Shotgun and just
They also figured out the employee that they had gotten their credentials from was working from home. And they're like, oh, let's see who's hacking into the stuff. Wait a minute. Because that person was actively working at the time. And I'm trying to remember. I think my last phone was Motorola. But I'm trying to, it's like, I think I have a tablet somewhere in the house. I don't know where. So it's like,
This is a real danger for here at the office.
I got to defuse the bomb. It's like CSGO all of a sudden. I got to like quickly defuse the bomb in my home.
Samsung phones blowing up at pandemic rates, urging return of removable batteries.
And he's
we
not
should have
talking about the
removable
sales.
batteries either way.
Samsung response. So if you have an older phone, the batteries are crossing the Rubicon, and they're becoming spicy pillows. Reddit.com/r/spicy pillows. So
There they are.
they will burst into flames not far off this state.
That one looks like it's about 6 months pregnant.
The problem too is, if you store your old phone in a box somewhere, it could set everything in the box on fire. It's like, oh, I put this in a cardboard
Some
box
nice
with my other
kindling in
stuff.
there, yeah.
Literally kindling.
Oh, we should start selling a level 1 sand bucket for phone storage.
It's funny that you say that, because that is pretty, like, if you have one of these phones and your only option really is sand bucket, because there's not really a way to put it out. It's its own fuel.
Krista came up with like a really elegant sand bucket and put a nice top on it so your cats don't get in there.
Emergency sand bucket.
It's a sand bucket, but there's like cat turds in it because they get
Ooh,
in.
what about a charging station that is also sand bucket?
If the phone does anything weird, it just ejects it into a sand
We could
bucket.
do a cross promotion with the new Dune movie.
If you hung the phone upside down, some phones might be too heavy, but if the phone was hanging upside down and the sand was below it, as it burned the cable, it would drop into the sand.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Don't steal that.
It might be a little expensive to ship that much sand.
Well, they could source their own sand.
Wow.
We could send them a sand voucher.
Ready your USB charging bucket.
And so we've discovered a couple of stories recently where people were sick of losing their luggage, so they popped an air tag in there. And what they were finding out is that the luggage was not being treated well. It was not going where it was supposed to. It was an absolute disaster. That's embarrassing for the airlines. So what can you do? Well, you can make a stupid decision and immediately have to backtrack.
Airline says it won't stop you from tracking your checked bag after all. Lufthansa said, no, you can't have a tracker in there. It's transmitting radio and could interfere with the plane. And then somebody said, that's not how those trackers work.
Yeah, this kind of went back and forth all week. I saw 3 or 4 headlines about this.
Lufthansa.
Lufthansa.
You never seen Goodfellas?
No.
Oh my God, you have to watch Goodfellas. And the MCAA or MPA and Motion Picture Association, they are constantly lobbying, of course, to get more copyright control. This is their annual time when they try to play up how much of a government risk piracy is.
Hollywood and Netflix report top piracy threats to the U.S. government. This thing is made up, and this thing is the hot water pot that we are all slowly boiling in. It is absolutely infuriating. You should all read it and be aware of the lies and terribleness that are being spread, because this is the thin end of the wedge that's used to make a lot of things really bad. And if you don't believe that it touches every aspect of technology, the connection from the monitor that you're watching this on right now to your computer has layers and layers of unnecessary, awful encryption that is very difficult to support if you happen to have a KVM type product, because they encrypt the signal from the thing to the display, from the device to the display, because they don't trust you. And that makes KVM type devices a huge, unnecessarily painful pain in the butt to try to deal with.
And increases prices across the board unnecessarily.
And when your display drops out and glitches and has a black screen, some driver crashes, almost always is because of this encryption handshake nonsense. And the HDMI consortium goes one step further and keeps some of their specification private, which makes it very difficult for open source companies to even support things at a driver level, even when you're trying to respect that. So these companies, the amount of pain and human misery they have inflicted is really just incredible. And I wish more people were aware of that.
And they've already gotten Google under their thumb. Google removes those links without question at this point. Next up, Cloudflare. They want to be absolutely shut down. Now, if you were Activision Blizzard and you did something really stupid and the backlash was immediate and overwhelming, so much so that you had to backtrack again almost immediately, would you then 2 weeks later do the exact same thing? Of course you would.
Absolutely. Upcoming Call of Duty has annoying phone number verification requirement, just like Overwatch 2, except then they backtracked it. Oh, you know what else was that? Oh, it's not government news, though.
Is it security news?
No.
Just throw it out there.
It was, NVIDIA did the same thing. They had the 4080 12 gig, which is not a 4080, and they unlaunched it because it's like, oh, and remember the 1060 all the way back to the 10 series. We're on the 4000 series, and it's like, with the 1060, we got the 3 gig and the 6 gig. Those were different GPUs. And finally, they might have learned. It took 4 tries. So we're getting 3 more games from Activision that have a phone number requirement before they're like, you know what? Maybe that's not a good idea.
People really dislike this.
I bet it wasn't so much the repetitive nature of their failure. I bet it was them actually having to compete all of a sudden rather than having a product that was pre-sold 8 months in advance. And we had, Russia was real angry about that bridge.
That's such a nice, concise way of putting it. They're real angry about that.
They seem to think that our spy agencies had something to do with that. And I don't know why they would think that. I mean, come on. It's not like we've ever done anything like that before. But they did decide to retaliate a little.
Russian-speaking hackers knock multiple U.S. airport websites offline. No impact on operations reported. Because the airports were already a hot mess.
The hackers got in there and like, I can't make this any worse.
Yeah.
Just take the website down.
I might be doing them a favor. That reminds me of like World War II stories where people would talk about like American strategies. It's like they don't know what they're doing, so we can't know what they're doing.
We'd have to clean this place up just to start destroying it. And over in Iran, of course, we talked about their protests that they got going on right now. They'll turn the internet off, but the hackers have taken a step back at them.
Protests in Iran. State-run live TV has been hacked by protesters because things are getting real spicy over there.
They popped up this mask image, and
that would scare the poop out of me.
I like how their Anon thing has a beard, because of course it does. And they put up a picture of the government dude with a crosshair on him and denounced him. I think they only got about 30 seconds of broadcast before they cut it off, but still embarrassing. And finally, if you have an iPhone, it's got this hot new feature that tries to detect if you've been in a car accident. But it turns out sometimes people do things that are extreme that aren't car accidents.
The iPhone 14 keeps calling 911 on roller coasters because it's like, you've been in a crash. It's like, no, I'm just
having a ride on a roller coaster.
You could feel Son of Beast in your kidneys.
The real thing that I took away from this is that people take their phones on roller coasters.
Right, yeah. How would you secure it?
Just in your pocket.
You're upside down.
You're in your pocket.
I'm just gonna know because there's always some moron who ends up losing their phone behind the fence, and then everyone has to stop while the worker goes and picks it up.
I bet though, if you're smart and you run a roller coaster, you would use this to your advantage and be like, this roller coaster is so extreme, it's not for iPhones.
You have a little sign. It's like, you must be this tall and not have an iPhone.
Take your iPhone out of your pocket, please.
What we get?
What do we got for tomorrow?
40 minutes. Tomorrow will
bad.
be business and social.
There's kind of a lot of business stories because, you know, the whole Q3 thing, but
Yeah, low government, big business is that's October. That's the October trend.
We'll see you guys then. Bye.